A group of subordinates stood in an orderly manner below the platform. Xianxia snorted coldly in his heart. They were quite disciplined. He looked back at the little kid who was limping behind him and said, "Follow me." Luli took the lead and walked to the side of the wooden platform. The little kid struggled to climb up, but before he could stand firm, Xianxia grabbed the back of his collar and lifted him up. "Let go of me, I can walk." The little kid's struggle was futile. Xianxia pointed at the group of people below and said, "Originally I wanted to let them go today, but you said you wanted to flatten this place. Fine, I'll fulfill your wish today." As soon as he finished speaking, Luli knelt down and begged, "Senior, please let them go. They have parents and children at the foot of the mountain. Their families depend on them to earn money. If they weren't forced to, they wouldn't have followed me up the mountain to become bandits. Once they're killed, their families won't be able to survive. Senior, please have mercy." The subordinates all looked terrified. They had all seen Xianxia descend from the sky. To them, those who could fly in the sky were like gods. Now that this god said he wanted to kill them, they immediately knelt down and begged for mercy. In an instant, the entire mountain camp was filled with begging voices. "What do you mean by taking care of the elderly and children? After you die, tell those words to the people you killed. Since you've come out to make a living, you must understand that sooner or later, you'll have to pay for what you did. It's not that I won't pay, it's that the time isn't right." Xianxia slowly said in a cold voice, "No. Senior, I beg you, no." Luli hugged his leg and begged. "Scram." Xianxia directly kicked him off the platform. Then he shook the little kid and shouted, "Watch carefully." In fact, Wuxia was already a little stunned. He had never seen so many people kneeling and begging. As soon as he finished speaking, nearly 100 cold lights shot out from the storage bag, crazily sweeping towards the people kneeling on the ground. In an instant, blood splattered everywhere, flesh and blood flew everywhere, and screams shook the sky. The little kid was stunned at first. When he came to his senses, his whole body trembled. He covered his eyes with his little hands, unable to watch anymore. Xianxia coldly snorted. "Today he was going to kill this person for you to see. You have no choice but to watch." His thumb and index finger pinched the back of the little kid's neck, and a stream of true essence entered his body. The little kid's hands immediately drooped down and his eyes were wide open. Witnessing the bloody, violent and wanton killing in front of him, he could not speak, nor could he close his eyes. He could not move and could only watch and listen. Crystal clear tears continuously flowed down his cheeks. He opened his mouth and froze in place. 2 days later, on the square in front of the main hall of Penglai Pavilion, a big wooden sign announced the list of the competition, which attracted many people to watch. There were nearly 300 disciples participating in the nascent soul stage competition and nearly 1,000 disciples participating in the core formation stage competition. Almost all of them were disciples of the Cultivation Pavilion. However, there was one exception. At the bottom was written, "Alchemy Pavilion, Early Stage Core Formation Xianxia." Set off by the more than 1,000 pavilion of cultivation disciples, it was exceptionally prominent. Perhaps someone was deliberately making fun of it, but the words at the very bottom were twice as large as the ones at the top. It was impossible for it not to stand out. This news immediately caused an uproar on Fuxian Island. First, no one expected the famous Xianxia to reach the core formation stage so quickly. Second, no one expected something that had not been seen for thousands of years to happen. There were actually disciples from other sects who wanted to compete with the Cultivation Pavilion. It was really exciting. In comparison, no one paid attention to how his cultivation level increased so quickly. Everyone was guessing how many rounds Xianxia could last. Due to the celebrity effect, the Alchemy Pavilion suddenly became the focal point of Fuxian Island. As long as someone met a disciple of the Alchemy Pavilion, they would stop them and ask them about Xianxia. The questions they asked were very strange. In short, most people felt that Xianxia was looking for a thrill. Xianxia's courtyard was also constantly visited by guests. The first to visit was Furong. After the two of them parted ways, Gu Qinyun came again. The moment he saw Xianxia, he asked in amazement, "Tiski?" Your actions are no different from challenging the Cultivation Pavilion. There are many core formation disciples in our Cultivation Pavilion who want to meet you in the first battle. They want to defeat you and make a name for themselves. By the way, when did you reach the core formation stage? How come I didn't know? It seems it is good to have a principal elder of the alchemy pavilion as a master. Elder Guan must have given you a lot of elixirs, right? Otherwise, how could your cultivation level increase so quickly? Do you have anything good for me? Yu Qianchou directly coaxed this meddlesome woman who asked a lot of questions to leave. Not long after, Qing Gingqing heard the news and came again. After praising his courage, he shook his head and left with a sigh. Following that, Yang Qian also came. He said helplessly, "You really dared to do it." He walked around him a few times and also left. Soon after, Ko Shuahua and the other two women as well as Xiao Wanqing from the safe pavilion also came together. The four women were very confident in him. Yu Qianchou had really made the subsidiary factions proud. The number 6 arena was still rumbling non-stop. The arena with a radius of tens of meters was already much shorter than the surrounding area. That disciple was also suffering in silence. He was still fleeing in all directions and his whole body was already covered in sweat. Seeing that he refused to admit defeat, Yu Qianchou sneered and prepared to kill him. However, from the beginning he had no intention of letting him go, even though he had already admitted defeat. "Bastard, I don't want to play with you anymore. Hand over your life." Yu Qianchou shouted loudly. He pointed with his finger and the dazzling sword wheel behind him split into 10 rays of sword light. Xiu xiu. The rays of sword light quickly rushed down. But that disciple suddenly shouted and raised his hand. A golden bracelet on his wrist flashed with a golden light. In an instant, that golden light enveloped his entire body. More than 10 rays of cold light that were shooting at high speed collided with the bracelet, making ding-ding-dang-dang sounds. One after another they were all knocked away. "Faster, thief. What is this?" Yu Qianchou looked down in a daze. The surrounding people were also in an uproar. Diamond bracelet. Guan Weiwu, who was on the pavilion, was startled at first. Then he turned his head and said angrily, "Elder O, what is the meaning of this? How can you allow a disciple to bring a magic weapon into the arena? This is too unfair to the other disciples." Osihai glanced at him and said expressionlessly, "Who said that magic weapons can't be brought into the arena? Who allowed your alchemy pavilion disciple to bring so many flying swords into the arena? Isn't this unfair to the other disciples?" "That's because of the sword technique he cultivates. He can control so many flying swords at the same time, so it doesn't matter if he brings more flying swords." Guan Weiwu defended himself. His own disciple was about to win, but the other side actually brought out a magic weapon. How could he not be angry? That diamond bracelet wasn't given to him by the Cultivation Pavilion. When he went out to cultivate, he killed a demonic path disciple and obtained it with his own ability. Why can't he use something that belongs to him? Osihai sneered, then suddenly turned his head and said in a deep voice, "Guan Weiwu, who gave you the right to speak to me like this?" Guan Weiwu was stunned. Osihai's cultivation had reached the peak of the middle stage of the tribulation passing stage. He was a bit stronger than the sect leader. According to seniority in the outside world, he was his father's junior brother. He was a generation older than the sect leader and belonged to the same branch of the Guan family. "Senior brother. You be the judge." Guan Weiwu didn't dare to show his power and could only look for his senior brother, the sect leader.